welcome to Those Forking Fangirls, where we talk all things nerdy book, TV, movies, pop culture, fandoms, and how they integrate into our adult lives. I'm Christine.
And I'm Natasha. And today, my name is here.
I'm supposed to say there. I was supposed to change this to Christine. Today. Do you want to say it?
Yeah.
All right. Today we're going to be discussing everything Colleen Hoover. So this episode is kind of long overdue. Like, the Hoover craze was really in its prime last year, but we want to talk about our favorites in her catalog, are the ones that we're least enthusiastic about because we found them a little like anxiety inducing, are which ones we found the most fun, which ones are the most traumatic, which ones make us feel the most seen, all of that. So we're excited to discuss all of because we love Colleen Hoover in this house. Big fans. I love her as a human. I love her books. I eat them like candy. I've been reading them since 2013 and adoring them. So we're excited to dig into those. But before that, we're going to talk Snap Crackle pop culture news, and the Oscar nominations dropped this week. So we've got a lot to discuss.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So, Natasha, do you want to start us off with this news before we get into the Oscar stuff? Oh.
So, really cool thing. Margot Robbie and her stylist are coming out with a coffee table book about all of her outfits she wore on the Barbie tour. And this is so exciting to me personally. I mean, I think the Barbie movie in and of itself was just an enigma, but Margot on tour promoting the film in all of the Barbie outfits was also iconic in and of itself. Yes. So the fact that they are going to have a book that goes into the details and what went in, their thought process behind the scenes of all these looks is so fun. Like, I cannot wait to get my hands on this book. So, like, the front cover is like Margot laying like a Barbie doll and like all the little things around her that make up like her outfit. So I'm really interested to see like what the pictures are what the pictures are going to look like. Like what the thought process was behind it. I had a Barbie coffee table book when I was growing up, and I would flip through that thing all the time just to like look at all the different dolls. And so I feel like this is going to be an adult version of that. So yeah, I'm getting this when it drops immediately. I don't know when it drops actually. Do you know?
I have no idea. I saw the news from you in that TikTok, so I'm not sure when it comes out, but it's like a coffee table book, so it'll be nice and pretty.
Hopefully soon. Sometime this year it'll be out.
Yeah. Before we go into Oscar noms, the other bit of news that I had that was really exciting, there's a new Avatar in the Last Airbender trailer. Did you watch it, or are you not watching these trailers?
I'm not watching them. I don't know the lore or anything, so it doesn't really interest me.
Yeah. Okay. It was so fucking good. I was like I was feeling very emo watching it because it was so close to it. Just everyone looks just like their characters and sounds like their characters. Like Sokka sounded just like himself, like, and he looked just like him, and everybody looked like their characters, and it just looks beautiful. I'm so excited. The guy they got for Sokka is literally him. Yeah, he looks just like him and sounded just like him. And I couldn't even, when I watched him deliver a line, I was like, holy shit.
Did you watched the animated?
Yes, so I watched it with John over the pandemic. And at first I was a little skeptical because in the beginning it feels very like almost like elementary, the first couple episodes. But then like the deeper you get into it, the more you fall in love with this world and the characters, and it gets so good. It's one of those things where like if you're an adult and you're a little skeptical, you have to give it a second, because people in like millennials, I think, just missed like the prime of it being on like Nickelodeon. Was it on Nickelodeon? Like my brother's generation was in the prime of it being on air. and I missed it airing, but I know everybody loved it and everyone has talked about it for so long, but I had no idea what it was. And so I'm so glad I watched it during the pandemic. I fell in love with it and it was so much fun and all the characters are so sweet. And when it was over, I was so upset because I did not like the Korra, Legends of Korra series. It was not the same.
I think I've seen some of that. I know Alex watched it over the pandemic too, but I wasn't really paying attention to it. Yeah, I was like, ugh, it's something Alex likes, so I probably won't like it.
Oh my gosh, no, it's really good. What did Gabby say? I like that the real actors show the age difference between Aang and Katara. Yes, I'm curious to see what they do with the romance. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I feel like their romance is not really. It's just really like a crush in the show because they're so young. So I'm really excited too because they're making like series of now when they're older because in the Korra series we just fast forward to like everyone's dead. Like it's that far in the future. So you miss their whole adulthood. And I really wanted to see that.
I know Alex was telling me I'm going to like a character because it's very reminiscent of like Kylo Ren, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. What is his name? Zuko or something? I can't remember right now. I feel like I have to rewatch the cartoon, but like the show's going to come out so soon. I'm just going to rewatch it that way.
Yeah. I'll definitely be watching it because maybe that'll get me hooked.
Yeah.
Like same thing. Like Alex watched One Piece on his own and I like wasn't really interested in it. But then I've heard like a bunch of my girlfriends also really liking it. And I'm like, should I watch it? I don't know. I know that there's no like romance. There's not like a big romance in it. So that's always a thing that gets me to watch something.
There are hints of romance throughout this. There's like Sokka and his romance. And also I'm second guessing now since I haven't watched it. Am I pronouncing Sokka correctly or is it Sokka? Am I like losing my mind? Because now that I just say things wrong when it's been a long time since I've said them. It's Sokka, right? I'm right. Okay.
Katie says, Natasha, you would ship Zuko and Katara so hard.
Yes. And Zuko's like crazy sister. It's so fun. Anyway, okay. So that came out. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's such a good trailer, and I'm so excited for the show. The show drops middle of February, I want to say. All right. Then we got the Oscar nominations this week, and I'd love to go through the Best Picture noms and get okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Best Picture nominations this year. The first is American Fiction. Have you watched this one yet, Natasha?
No, but you have.
I just watched it. I really liked it. And the lead character is his name Jeffrey Wright, the guy from Westworld? Okay. The second he started talking, I got all these Westworld feelings. And I was like, why haven't I rewatched Westworld in the last 3 years? I miss it so much.
Dude, Westworld, you can't even stream it anymore. HBO took it off of Max. Yeah.
What?
Yes. Yeah,
what?
It's the fucking Discovery. When they bought out Warner Brothers, he's just been like annihilating the brand and taking off some of their best works. So yeah, you can't stream Westworld any longer.
Where the fuck is it?
I think you can buy it.
This is ridiculous. I'm so upset by this. What the fuck? It's an HBO original and that's HBO's fucking streamer. This is so stupid.
Tiffany says, I think Freevee or something has it now. One of the smaller apps bought it. So yeah, they're taking it off their streaming service so that they can sell it and make money.
Ugh. What is the point of having a Max subscription? Oh my God. All right. So American Fiction, I think, I was going to say is the one that I've enjoyed the most so far, but also Barbie. All right. The next one is Anatomy of a Fall. I think this is the film that's in German that won some stuff over the Golden Globes. Are you planning on watching this, Natasha?
I don't know. It doesn't ring a bell. I can't like see the.
It's like got snow in the poster, and I think it's about a murder case or something. And then we've got Barbie. Oh, Tiffany says Anatomy is a good marriage courtroom movie. Okay, interesting. So maybe not murder, marriage courtroom.
Something to do with the law.
Then we have Barbie, of course, and there was a lot of controversy about Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig not getting nominated in the Best Actress and the Best Director category. How are you feeling about this?
I mean, like, we've had some time to think about it. I think initially I was more what the fuck about Greta, because she has had so many amazing films be nominated in several different categories, but she herself has never been nominated. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know if she was nominated for Lady Bird or
I don't think she was nominated for Little Women.
Okay.
But her not being nominated for Best Director was very upsetting to me. Margot, on the other hand, I'm like, yes, I really wish she was nominated for like Best Actress, but if Barbie wins, like, she'll be up there talking about it. I don't think it's gonna win because she's the producer. But like, I am very happy America Ferrera is nominated. That is like the one person I really wanted to get nominated. Right. When I first like walked out of, I think, my second showing of Barbie, I was like, Ryan Gosling's gonna get nominated for this. Like, I just know he is. But it's so weird that Ryan gets nominated and Margot doesn't. Like, it's weird and it's funny.
Wrong. It's funny, but like, I do think that like Ryan had a part that was required more acting in a way, like more, I don't know, it just had more character to the character that we didn't expect in terms of like Barbie. When you think about Ken, you don't know what Ken is, and it was really funny. And America Ferrera, of course, had like a really emotional role, and I could see why like they would dismiss Margot's as not being up to par, even though I think she did an amazing job. Like you, I think that the Greta not getting nominated was more of a oh man sort of feeling, because it was all men, I think, in the category too.
There's one woman who was
Is
nominated.
There? Okay. Okay. I just didn't know.
I think she's the director of Anatomy of a Fall.
Oh,
or the Zone of Interest.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Anatomy of a Fall director. Thank you, Tiffany. I was right.
Okay, I'm glad that there's a female director in there, because I was like, oh. Yeah, but Greta is nominated because Barbie's nominated for Best Screenplay and she wrote the screenplay. Like, she's nominated, her movie is nominated. Like, she's nominated a lot of ways.
That's true. It's just like there's been so much dialogue over years of why there can't be more diversity in the director, and I think they're just like, oh, she's nominated for a screenplay, so we don't need to include her in this.
Oh, I wasn't thinking about that, but it has a really good screenplay. So, yeah. I mean, and okay, this is what gets me about the screenplay, because it's in Best Adapted Screenplay, and I don't know if that's a technicality because they had to borrow Barbie from Mattel, but like, there's no like, this isn't based off of a book. Like, they made this world up. Like, they used characters that we know, but they made this script up. Like, I'm like, this is not adapted. Why is it in Best Adapted? I feel like it must be a legal thing with the actual property of Barbie.
It's like, what are you adapting from? Like, the marketing efforts of Mattel making Barbie what it is, and like all the copy they've had to write about certain Barbie characters. Like, I don't.
Literally, with that mindset, like, a lot of original films could be like, this was adapted from people living in the South, or like, this was adapted from people in Canada. Like,
Tiffany is our local industry plant. She's saying it 100% is as long as there's IP. Okay.
It's very
strange. Obviously adapted from Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses from 2002. IP is intellectual property, Gabby.
Okay, Julia's saying it's funny to me that May December is an original screenplay when that is based off of an actual event / crime case that Barbie is adapted. Yeah, I know. It's all legal stuff.
Yeah. Well, intellectual property. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's legal stuff. All right, but moving on there, the next nominated film is The Holdovers, which I just read the description for this, and I'm more interested in it now, but it's about... Do you know what it's about? Did you watch it?
No, but I did. When I was coming on the Golden Globes, I'm like, I do want to watch that. And I think it's about like a coach, a high school coach, or
no, it's about
teacher?
a teacher that's forced to stay and babysit the kids over break that don't have anywhere to go because it's at a boarding school. So the kids that don't have someplace to go during the Christmas break have to stay at school, and he's there and has to watch them. And there's also a cook that stays, and that I think is Divine Joy, who won the Golden Globe, and Paul Giamatti's the teacher, who also won a Golden Globe.
Yep.
Yeah. So I want to watch that one. And that one is streaming on Peacock. And Barbie is streaming on Max. American Fiction isn't streaming anywhere yet. And I don't know if Anatomy of the Fall is either.
Yeah. I watched an interview with Paul Giamatti, and someone asked him like, what do people like when they come up to talk to you? What do they recognize you from? And he's like, actually, it's from Big Fat Liar. He's like the blue man.
Oh my God, that's where I recognize him from. Yeah. I've been trying to place it for this whole time. I'm like, what do I know him from? It's been so long since I watched Big Fat Liar. And I'm like, it's not at the forefront of my mind.
I want to rewatch that movie again.
I know. We should watch that. I completely forgot. Wait, is that Amanda Bynes?
Yeah, it's Amanda Bynes and
Frankie Muniz?
Frankie Muniz.
Oh my God. That's crazy. All right. And then we've got, of course, Killers of the Flower Moon, the 3-hour, 26-minute film that we both watch now. Maestro, which is on Netflix with Bradley Cooper, about a composer. Have you watched that one?
No, I was kind of like, I think this is a Netflix movie, so I'm happy that a streamer is getting nominated, but at the same time, I'm like, meh. I don't know. Can we go back to Killers of a Flower Moon? Because Leo was not nominated, but obviously Lily Gladstone was. And I'm very excited for that. If she wins, she will be the first Native American to win an Oscar. And that is so fucking cool.
That's amazing.
It needs to happen. Yeah.
I think she has a great shot at winning. Like, I think she's going to win, but I forget who else she's up against.
She's up against America. So either of those women.
I think she'll win over America because
I think so too.
There's just a lot of acting required in that movie, and it's really impactful. Then we have I'm not really interested in Maestro either, and I tried watching it and I wasn't loving the opening scene. Tiffany just said that Maestro looks great, but the story's just okay, so I feel okay with that decision. Oppenheimer is nominated, of course. I don't know, I just keep seeing people saying that this is Chris Nolan's best film, and I'm just like, what? Who thinks that? Men? I just I feel like white men think this is his best film, but I don't agree.
I don't agree. Interstellar is going to be my favorite film he's ever made ever because of the way it made me feel.
Inception is going to be my favorite film that he's made, followed quickly by The Dark Knight. And I hate that The Dark Knight just doesn't even come up on as a bleep on the Oscar radar, right? I think Heath is the only thing that got nominated from that. Actually, I don't know. Was the film nominated for Best of the Year? I can't remember.
I think so.
Maybe it was. It didn't win, even though it was phenomenal. Heath
Shot
won.
says Oppenheimer was kind of boring. I don't know if that's a hot take.
It was at times. It's not a hot take. What?
The thing is, it's like, it was a beautiful masterpiece, but like, we know the story, so it wasn't thrilling to me.
I mean, it didn't have that like edge where you're like, what's gonna happen? Yeah. And how is Nolan gonna like twist this on its head in terms of like, he usually has a nice twist in his stories, and the twist in this was like Robert Downey Jr. was, I don't even remember, because it didn't hit for me at all. Like, I was like, okay, I didn't even care about him. And so it didn't hit the same, and I don't know why it's winning everything.
I mean, I am happy that like Christopher Nolan is winning,
nominated,
but at the same time, like, there's been some stuff that's been coming out about him and like his work ethic on set, and he just sounds very toxic. Like, there's things that Emily Blunt and RDJ were saying, they were like kind of making fun of it, but I don't know, it just sounds, he doesn't sound like,
I listened to Emily Blunt talking about it. It didn't sound toxic. He just sounded like boring.
Oh, it sounded like he like would keep people longer than they needed to be there and things like that, or like if he kept going, then everyone else kept going and not really listening. I don't know.
I feel like keeping going is like, if you need to get a shot. I don't know. It's a tough call with all the money riding on the film.
True.
But I think that's like very nuanced, so it's hard to say. And the things that she was talking about were very much like she was talking about Uggs and how he doesn't like Uggs in that interview, and he's very British. So I think it's kind of like, I don't know. But Bear Paw for life. Oh, that's a brand?
Yes.
I had Bear Paws before I had Uggs. All right. Next on the list, we've got Past Lives, which I watched on the plane about a month ago now, and that I feel like it's only nominated for film. It's not nominated in any other areas. And then Poor Things. Are you gonna watch Past Lives or Poor Things?
I want to watch Poor Things. I'm trying to prioritize that to maybe watch it on Sunday with friends. But Emma Stone is nominated for Best Actress. Just want to make, I think someone in the chat was saying like they want Emma Stone to win over, but Emma Stone's nominated for Best Actress. Lily and America are nominated for Best Supporting Actress. So it's different categories.
Yeah. And Poor Things is nominated in almost every single category. So I definitely gotta watch it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then The Zone of Interest is the only one that I hadn't heard of at all. And it's about a Nazi's family living next to Auschwitz, which sounds very dark. So I'm interested in like what the story is there in terms of like the arc of what happens. That I watched the trailer and it really didn't give much away at all. So I don't know, but yeah, those are the Best Picture noms. I feel like Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and maybe American Fiction are like the front runners for the win. Yeah. What do you think? Yeah. I don't know. The Holdovers, I haven't watched it yet, so I can't say.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope Barbie wins in something. Like, that would be great. I think they're going to win Best Song with, why am I blanking on her name?
Billie Eilish?
Billie Eilish. I think Billie Eilish is going to win an Oscar. So I think that's definitely going to be a shoo-in to win. If it's not, I'm going to revolt. And I hope to God that Ryan Gosling sings I'm Just Ken on stage.
He has to. He has to. It was nominated. I'm excited about that. Oh my goodness. All right. Last on the news today is that I have a book coming out May 21st, 2024
Wow.
called Attached at the Hip.
Really?
Yes, and it's available for pre-order now. And I've been actually getting these questions a lot, so I just wanted to clarify because some people like want to read it on their phone and don't want to pre-order a hard copy of the book
Like
or
me.
like doing the audiobook. Yeah. And I just want to let everyone know that like you can pre-order it that way too, and it still counts toward pre-orders. So that is also super helpful if you want to pre-order it through like your audiobook app or through whatever app you use to read your ebooks. Like that's really helpful. So thank you very much if you do that too. And of course, adding it to your Goodreads, TBR, and requesting it from your library. All of that stuff is super helpful. Thank you very, very much. If you don't know, Attached at the Hip is a Survivor with a romantic slant rom-com reality show book. It's super fun and I'm super excited to share it with you. And I have all the art now from Miss Sasha Alsberg, who I commissioned to do art of the characters. So that might be out while you guys are listening to this, since this isn't coming out for a week. I'm excited to show you all. It's going to be fun. But yeah. All right, let's roll right into what right now. Natasha, what have you been reading?
All right. I've been reading the Hurricane Wars. So I have now purchased the Hurricane Wars as a physical copy, as an ebook, and as an audiobook. Because
Wow.
I told everyone that I was going to read it and then I couldn't. Let me just, okay. So last night I was making cakes because I'm going to make a full 3 layered cake for Heather's birthday. And I'm like, okay, let's just start it. Let's get the audiobook so I can just get into it. Because let me tell you, this is a Raylo fan fiction. My favorite Raylo fan fiction I have ever read. And I knew when she pulled it and when I heard that it was going to become a book, I'm like, how the hell is she going to turn this in? Because it was so entrenched in Star Wars lore. So she has had to make up this entirely new, I think it's a sci-fi. It's like a fantasy sci-fi. Like I'm getting Dune vibes. But I don't know if there's other planets. I think it's just on one planet. But it's like, did you ever watch that TikTok that kind of went viral where it's like, you're starting a new fantasy book and it's like the dooley bop of the doo-doo-doo and the diddle-lop. Yeah. So this is like the book. I think that this like takes, let me just read you this passage. I read it to Taya this morning and I'm like, I was listening to it, but I couldn't like get into it. Because there's so many new words and I'm so confused and I'm like, this is not at all. And like, it's great. Like, I'm so glad that she's been able to like really transform the story. Okay, here it goes. Fueled by scores of aether hearts that had been imbued with rain and wind and lightning magic by Emperor Gehasis' cunning enchanters, pulsating sapphire and emerald and white through the metal glass sheets comprising the translucent hull, the storm ship approached Hornbill's head with all the grim finality of a tidal wave, dragging black thunderclouds in its wake. The endless sea of burnished grass bowed beneath it, bent by the gales from the squall fast, that its enormous turbines spun under a steadily darkening sky. What? What?
Like way too many. That was too long of a sentence with too many adjectives.
That was a paragraph. Okay. It's giving vibes of like Red Rising, but like way worse. Like Red Rising was a lot easier to read. This is not. This is fucking confusing. Okay, Laura says I have been reading Hurricane Wars alongside me very, very slowly. I just keep getting stuck because my brain keeps trying to figure out what all the new things used to be in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, like I think that might be the drawback of knowing something is fanfic with the serial number filed off.
Yes. Yeah. Have you been thinking about like, because I think if I had already read it as a Star Wars fanfic, I'd be like, oh, wait, what was this? What was this before?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to really separate them, but I'm also, but it's quite confusing because I don't know exactly what the world is. Like if it's on our own planet or if it's a completely different universe. Like, is there technology? Is there not technology? Like, she has things called wasps, but it's not like capitalized, and I don't know if that's like a ship or like a wasp. So yeah,
Like wasp, like a white Anglo-Saxon person?
no, she was like, I get on my wasp and I go like out, like, and I fly over the trees,
like
and
a car.
Yeah, and I'm like thinking like the little like motorcycle things that like Leia is on. I don't know. Laura says, I keep being like, would Rey do that? Who is this? I think it's a new universe and it seems to have tech but also fantasy vibes. Odd atmosphere so far. I agree. This is very odd. I'm interested and intrigued. I'm gonna keep going. But I'm going to keep highlighting these fucking confusing paragraphs for you guys.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like a fantasy sci-fi. You have to give it a second for like to learn those things, and then things start to roll. I am just reading Iron Flame still, but like I'm 40% in now. I'm in it. Like things are happening. It's not like slow going anymore. And then movie wise, I watched Iron Claw. I didn't finish it, but I watched a lot of it last night and it's really good. This is the new film with Zac Efron and Jeffrey Allen White from The Bear. And the guy from Mindhunter, the older man, plays the Iron Claw, like the original Iron Claw. It's about this famous wrestler and his sons. He has like 4 sons and they're all like really close knit. Like it's really, they have a great brother relationship and they're all very dedicated to making their father proud. And he wants them to be like the best athletes in whatever they choose to be an athlete in. And 3 of his sons go into wrestling. And it's the story of what happens there. Yeah. Tiffany says Iron Claw is so good and sad. Yeah. I wasn't prepared for it to start to get sad. And then it did. And I was like, I'm going to have to finish this tomorrow. But yeah, at the halfway point, something starts to happen. I'm like, oh no, I think I see where this is going. And I don't want it to.
Is it like that movie? Is it like Pearl Harbor vibes?
I never watched Pearl Harbor.
Oh.
Tiffany says it came out too late and there wasn't an awards push for it. Yeah, I think this is the most Zac Efron has ever acted. Like his performance is amazing. He's a completely different person to me in this film. Like he's never played someone like this in anything that I've seen him in. And like he feels so real as this new character. Yeah, Katie says I gotta see it now. That's my boy. I know, that's my boy too. I'm like, wow. I just like, he plays this really sweet jock-ish guy where he's just dedicated his life to like I said, like making his dad proud. And the girl from Mamma Mia is in it too, Mamma Mia 2, who plays the main character. Lily James. Thank you, Tiffany and Katie. Lily James is in it too. And yeah, so I'm having a good time. I was having a really good time watching it and then I started getting sad and I have to finish it now. TV wise, what have you watched this week, Natasha?
I'm on Fargo still, the first season, and it's getting good. I'm interested to see like the other seasons, honestly, though. Okay, we are in the end game of Game of Thrones rewatch with Taya and Liam, and we watched the second to last episode of season 8 last night, and that's the episode where everything goes down, like with Danny, and it was so interesting watching it again with people who have never seen it before. they were so frustrated, and it just like literally brought me back to when I first watched it. And I was like, what the fuck? I don't love the ending.
Who did like the ending?
Yeah, it's like, I know, like Alex was saying, he's like, yeah, I was trying to justify the ending of it, but it just doesn't make sense. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, they should have been dropping clues for a very long time. And she, like, rewatching it too, I'm like analyzing her reactions to big devastating things. It doesn't make sense. Okay. So anyways, watched that atrocity last night with them. And then I started season 4 or 5 of Miss Scarlet and the Duke, which I watched last year at this time. I like binged it, and it's so good, and I love it. It's like a little crime show in the Victorian age, and there's a slow burn that's been slow burning for way too long. They haven't even kissed yet. They've just been like burning glances at each other. I'm like, oh my god, just
how
please
long
get
have you
together.
been watching?
There's like 4 seasons of it.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. All right. Cool. Yeah. I have been watching The Traitors. It has been excellent, and it's been doing so well that they put it on air. They started airing it on NBC. It is the highest watched non-scripted show on television right now.
Wow.
Which is wild. Yeah. And my 2 Survivor queens are on this season, and I love everyone else who's on the season too. It's like a really great cast, and highly recommend if you want a fun show to watch.
Yeah, I put on The Bachelor. I haven't watched The Bachelor in a while, probably a couple of years, because it just was getting so annoying to me, and I was just getting over it. But they got this new guy, and he's real cute, but he also is like, he's just very sweet, so he doesn't have much of a personality. But I'm like, I watched it as I was like editing stuff, so, and I wish I had more episodes to watch, so I might put on The Traitors during the day.
Definitely. Traitors. I don't know if you want to start with season 1, but this is season 2 that I'm talking about. Yeah. And it is, I mean, I love season 1, but season 2 has more of like an even gameplay, and I'm loving it so much. My neighbor Cynthia, who has a baby, she's like, oh yeah, I've been like watching it in the background, and I'll like be like, oh, what did you think about this? What do you think about this? And she's like, wait, I don't know. And I'm like, she's like, are you like full on watching it? I'm like, yes, I am rapt at attention. Like, I'm a gamer girl. I need to be on top of it. I'm not half watching. So I'm loving it. There was a new episode every Thursday at like 6 p.m. Pacific time. So it's been great. And Percy Jackson is almost done. We're on the second to last episode. See, episode 7 aired this week, and the finale is next week. So Natasha, you can binge the whole thing starting next week if you want to watch Percy Jackson. And they did a really great job translating the book to the show. Like, I'm very impressed with them. I'm really impressed with the way the underworld looks. I'm just, I get so excited about like all the little nods between like Percy and Annabeth. They have such great chemistry. They're so cute. Like, the cast is so cute together. Grover is so cute with the 2 of them. I'm really enjoying it.
Are you like most excited to see the later books be adapted, or were you excited for like this first book?
I'm excited for all of it. I'm definitely, my favorites are definitely the ones from Heroes of Olympus. Like, my favorites are Mark of Athena and House of Hades. I mean, not House of Hades. Is it called House of Hades? The one where the House of Hades. It is called House of Hades. Okay. Okay. Yeah, those are my 2 favorite books, House of Hades and Mark of Athena. So those come much later, but all of this stuff is very much like magical and adorable, like the first few books of Harry Potter, you know? And there's all this really clever lore with the gods and how the Greek mythology weaves into the real world. So I love all that. I'm excited for Battle of the Rabbit. Okay, Laura says she's excited for the Battle of the Labyrinth. I want to see all the weird stuff and the more developed character relationships. And yeah, that's my favorite of the first 5 books. Battle of the Labyrinth is so good. I don't even remember it now. I just remember being like, that was amazing when I finished that one. So I'm pumped for more. We are going to head on into our main discussion, our Coho Palooza discussion. But before that, I got to take a second and thank all of y'all for listening. If you don't already, we'd love it if you followed the podcast in your favorite podcast listening app for free. If you like the visual version of the show, which if you don't know, there's a video version of every episode on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@those4kingfangirls. You can subscribe for free there so you never miss an episode on the YouTubes. And if you don't know already, we have a Patreon. This is a viewer supported show and we have a lot of perks on our Patreon. We're offering a free trial of the Team Jacob membership for a week so you can try it out and see if you like it. And at that tier, you get to come to our live recordings, be a part of the conversation in the chat, and you get our half an hour extra show every single week called Fangirl Tea Time, where we dig into more personal stories and just stuff that's a little closer to the chest, too close for the main show, and we love our community over there. And of course, we've got the $10 tier, Team Edward, where you get a bonus episode every month, and then our Team Polis Bananas tier, which is our top tier, where you can be on the show, and we do fangirl bonding sessions at every month on Zoom. It's really fun. So we love everyone in our community on Patreon. So if you want to join us there, it's a super fun, tight-knit place. And if you're just like listening on your streamers for free, we love that too. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We appreciate you. And if you want to ever send us feedback, we are on Instagram at Those Four King Fangirls. We are on TikTok at Those Four King Fangirls. You know, all of those places you can follow us and interact with us there. All right. Moving into our Coho Palooza. So a lot of people just discovered Colleen Hoover within like the last 3 years. I was reading my first Colleen Hoover book in 2013, or when I think during Booktubeathon.
Yeah, how did you discover Colleen? I don't remember.
Yeah, so I would get what I was going to read from my comments section. Like everyone would say, like, Christine, you should read this. Christine, read this. Christine, read this. And so many people were like, Christine, you need to read Colleen Hoover. And I finally got slammed because that was her first novel, I think. And I loved it. And the thing about Colleen's books that makes them so much fun and hit so hard is that there's this perfect blend, in my opinion, of depth and tragedy and comedy in her books.
Yeah.
Like, and that really hits hard because that's, I don't know, like that's like life. And she goes to these places with the tragedy that like not many people go to, I feel like, in their romance novels, at least that I've read, and balances it out so well with comedic dialogue and characters and situations. Like I'm always laughing and crying, and she does a really good job of walking this line where you don't know what's going to happen next, and you might think that you know everything about the characters, but you don't. Like major other plot points will drop and throw you off throughout the book. It's very hard to predict a lot of her stories, and that makes them really fun. That's also why like her stories are really fun to go into without knowing much, because you really never know where she's going to take it. And I love that. And her writing is really accessible. Like it's very much like you fall right into it. It's not hard or dense. It's very accessible and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She has great first liners, opening lines.
She does. I remember like really holding off on reading Colleen for a very long time. I think until right before you interviewed her, and I went with you to go interview her.
That was
Because
in 2015.
yeah, because the concept, I remember Slammed and then Hopeless were like her first two.
Big ones, yeah.
And those concepts did not interest me. And I was like, I don't like slam poetry. Like slam poetry is,
but it's not about slam poetry.
well, to me, that's what I thought it was. Like I didn't know. And I'm like, I don't really want to read it. And then Hopeless, I was like, that also sounds too hard to read. And so I finally picked up Ugly Love. That was my first book that I read. And I was like, oh, I like this. Like it was like my first big introduction to like romance with like love to hate or hate to love, but like really, really terrible, like hate to love in like a very toxic way. And I was like, yeah, give me more of this. The thing is, it's like I have been reading the most toxic stuff since I was 16 years old because I read fan fiction, and none of that is barely edited. Like, yes, they have like beta readers and things like that, but like I was reading stuff like that for ages. And then I finally like got out of the Twilight and Hermione bubble, and I was like, oh, there's more things to read. But yeah, I think you're so right in like it is like she does have the perfect mix of depth and fun and comedy and also tragedy in so many of her books, and it's so easy to like either see yourself or someone that you know or learn about new experiences too within them.
Yeah. I feel like I've learned so much through hearing from the point of views of her characters about just different types of people and different perspectives. And I love that. Gabby says, do you think they'd be better shelved as fiction than romance? And I feel like they were coming at a time where nothing was called romance and they were romance.
Well,
like
the romance section was like the Harlequin romances, like the Bridgertons
I didn't have any
of the day.
interest in those, and this was the first of like romance that I was like, oh, I like this.
It's like new adult. It was like kind of like new adult because they were like young.
Yeah, they were like early 20s, and another thing I love about Colleen Hoover books is that the love starts immediately. Like there's always a love interest immediately, and it's not like we're waiting for something to happen. Like they'll like make out on like the third chapter. And I knew when like I started writing my book, I was like, I want the love interest to be there immediately. Like I don't want it to be like waiting for something to happen with a love interest, and that's like why I started to clock it as like this is romance eventually, because I was like, I didn't call it that. I called it contemporary. Like, and then I was like, oh, is this what makes it romance? Like there's always a romantic storyline happening within the first two chapters. I don't have to wait for it. And I love that. And I think that is what makes it romance. Like I think right now we've gotten really used to rom-coms as a romance. And like rom-coms is like a different side of the romance section because those always have a happy ending.
There's like a whole section of romance too, because I remember trying to navigate it when I was young and I didn't know what I liked to read. But my mom read books like by Danielle Steele.
Yes, Danielle Steele.
And she told me to read a Danielle Steele, but I could not connect. The characters are so much older. They had more like marriage issues. It wasn't like they weren't young and it like it wasn't like a gripping love story. It was more about Danielle Steele feels more like a Jane Austen if Jane Austen were writing books in like the 90s or the 80s. And so I feel like there was this opportunity for an author to come in to kind of like meld the like erotica, not really, like the like the world of romance with the Danielle Steeles of the world and also bring in that depth.
Yeah. I mean, so I just had a thought about this and I lost it when I was thinking about that. Okay, yeah. With Colleen's books, I think I just said something that leads you to believe that they don't have happy endings. They all end on like a high note.
Yes.
Nothing ends like depressing, but they do go through so much shit, and like there's a lot of toxic behaviors and very intense characters and intense things happening. So if you are prone to like getting really anxious or like, you know, getting activated by things like that, it is a good idea to read the trigger warnings before going into a coho book, because they are really intense. Let me see. Laura says, I think people also sometimes get confused about the categorization because sometimes the characters are with someone toxic and then end up with another healthier relationship with someone else at the end of the book. So they go into thinking it's a romance. They think the first love interest is the love interest and get really turned off. But I mean, like, that happens in all types of books. Like, that happens in Sarah's books. Like, I feel like that's just part of what makes the story interesting and gives it plot. And that's like a romantic plot conflict rather than like a plot conflict where there's like a villain coming in to like try to murder you or something.
Yeah. Katie just said, I love what she said here. She goes, she writes real characters making real mistakes and dealing with real challenging, no good option situations. And it's messy, but it's real. Yes. And I think that's so true. Like, she does truly write characters who kind of hit rock bottom, but then have to pick themselves back up in different ways. And it's life, and it's hard, and it's not for every person. Like,
it's not for
we're going to go into it. There's so many books in here that like I had such a hard time reading, but there's also so many amazing books where I learned so much. So maybe we should talk about like our top 5 or 3.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to give your number 5?
Yeah.
You have 6.
I know. Well, because I'm
trying to add to my list now because I don't have as many on here.
I'm going to take this one out because I'll talk about it with you. Okay. But I'll say my number 5 is Layla. Layla is freaked me out. It's like about a guy falling in love with a ghost, and it was creepy, and it was like the second book I read after Verity, and I remember texting Christine. It was like late at night. I'm like, is this gonna scare me? Like, I don't like this. Like, I read some paranormal like romance books in the past that dealt with like demon shit and ghosts, and I was like, I can't do this again. So if this is this, you need to tell me now.
It wasn't. The thing is, this book really freaks you out till like page 100 or something, and then you're like, oh. And then you're like cool with it.
Laura, she's like, is this gonna scare me? I'm not a scaredy cat. I do love horror films and things like that, but when it's in your mind and you're reading it and you're conjuring up these images, I don't like messing with that at all. Like, that's the shit that can get me like freaked out. So like, try to stay away when I'm like reading it, but it's not scary.
With this one, it's not scary. You're going to like, it's going to start feeling like it's going to be scary, and then it gets unscary. With Layla, it's so funny. A lot of people really love that one. That was the first Colleen Hoover book that I knew exactly what was going to happen. And I was like, not as entranced by it because like I predicted it really fast. And I was like, wow, why? It's so different for me because all of her other ones, like I had no idea where she was going with most of the things. And with that one, I was like, oh, this is this. But like, I loved those first 100 pages where I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yes, it's a little predictable, but there's still points in that story that I am like, oh wait, how is this gonna work? Like, how is this gonna work? I don't understand how it is. And that was really fun for me to kind of answer those questions as the story went along. And I really enjoyed it because it's just such like another like a wish fulfillment type of story, but with such depth. And that one has it's like a good happily ever after. Like it's a really good, easy happily ever after once you get past the creepy stuff in the beginning.
All right, I just put down 5 because I had top 3, but I think this is my number 5. But I love so many of Colleen Hoover's books, and even the ones that at first I don't love, like I think about them for a really long time, and they really start to grow on me, and then I realize that like I do really love it. It really had an impact on me. My number 5 is Slammed. That was the first one I read. And just like you, Natasha, I was like, I don't like poetry, but I was like, everyone's recommending this, so it's got to be good. And what I love about Colleen's books is, yeah, I'm always laughing. Like when they're talking, like the banter between the characters is top notch. Their inside jokes are top notch. I love how she brings everything around. Like it's really, really, she's a master at that. And Slammed was my first experience with that, and it gave me an appreciation for slam poetry. At the end of it, I was like, wow, that was really beautiful. Like, would I ever try that? Like, because the way we go into it, like she's just as skeptical about it as all of us. And that's just something that she ends up doing as an outlet for like her pain and stuff. But like, there's a love story from the very beginning. I love the guy in it. I love like they have a scene in the grocery store that's like a pivotal like bonding scene, and it really reminded, like I wrote a pivotal bonding scene in a grocery store too. Like and I always think of her grocery store scene because I really felt that, and I really wanted yeah, the 2 of my characters I knew was, yeah. Anyway, it's hard to talk about this. In my book, there's a grocery store scene. And it's really fun and cute. And I love that, like, Colleen Hoover has also done that because it just seems like such a random place to have a fun, cute scene. Like, in that movie, Fresh, they meet in the grocery store because he's going to eat her. Like, it's horrible.
That's the one Sebastian Stan.
It's like a complete flip on like, I love grocery store scenes. I'm like, not that one.
I resisted Slammed for a very long time. I didn't read most of Colleen's when her books first came out. I think I only had read Ugly Love and November 9, and then Losing Hope like pretty early on when they were like first published, and then I kind of just stopped. And then when the Verity hype was coming around like 2 years ago, I don't remember, I think I was working at the time. That's when I started on the journey of reading all of her books. I got through most all of them except for like some of the sequels and stuff. She's written 27 books. Whether that's like the 3 parts of Never Never and then like the full part, but like she's written a lot. And I went through a whole, I think half a year of just like one after the next, after the next, after the next. And that was very fun, but I resisted Slammed for a long time. And then I remember being pleasantly surprised. I don't remember all the details of Slammed, but I do remember thinking like, oh wait, this is a lot cuter than I thought it was going to be. And I did enjoy it.
Wait, were you talking about Slammed?
Slammed, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, Colleen she started off as an indie author, which is really cool too. And she still, like, she had a nonprofit bookstore for a really long time. I think it just closed recently, but yeah, like people would donate books, and a lot of the proceeds would go to charity, and it was so cool. It was called like the Bookworm Box. Anyway,
I remember, yeah.
I just, but like she would self-publish still, like one book a year would be the released with the publishing company, and one book a year would be like a much edgier one, or one that yeah, sometimes, a lot of times it was much edgier, but it would be self-published. And now all of those books are being picked up by publishers because, you know, she exploded. But I thought it was just so cool that even though she was like published, she was also doing a self-published book every year. She was releasing like 2 books. She's the only author that I have read almost every single one of her books in ARC, like the second I get it in the mail. And that's how like addictive her books are, and how much I crave them. Like the second I got it, I was like, if I can't leave that on the table for very long. Like everything else has to be put down because I need to read it.
I feel that, but I also know like it takes me a lot to be in the mind space to read a Colleen book. Like I have to be like, okay, yeah, I think I can deal with this. If there's something in here that is like too much, like it takes me a bit. Okay, so number 4, I have Too Late. And this was one of her self-published novels. I think one of her longest ones too. It is massive. There's so much
brutal too.
It's brutal. There's so much toxic shit that happens in this. But it reminded me of like the long fan fictions I used to read. And it kind of like brought me back to that. So I started reading this like with my eyes when she first, like, I think she gave it out for free.
It was free on Amazon Kindle, I think.
Kindle. Yeah. And then
I think all of her self-published books were free on Amazon Kindle.
Yes. And I couldn't finish it because I was like, whoa. It was one of those times where I'm like, I can't do this right now. Like, I think I read it like right somewhere like when my mom passed away, so I couldn't do it. And then I picked it up as an audiobook and I was like, yeah, I love this is great.
Oh my god.
I know, it's just like you just have to know, like sometimes like you just have to know yourself and be intuitive about how you're feeling. And sometimes it's like, yeah, I like to read about this fictional toxic stuff because it's like fun and also horrible at the same time, because you're like, oh my gosh, what if this were happening to me? And like knowing you can put it down and be back in like your safe hobbit hole of a home. So I have it at number 4 because I think it was the most up and down of how I was feeling. But it didn't really touch anything that happened in my life. So it was okay.
Yeah, that was one of the hardest ones for me to read. It is about a very abusive relationship and a very scary situation that I mean, I've been around situations like that in my real life, so it was very hard for me to get through. Like, I got to the end, but then there's like 3 ends, and like, some of it was really like activating PTSD stuff for me. I did finish it. It does have like, I think, a happy ending.
I think it does.
But that one is her most intense book, in my opinion, like in terms of like toxicity and pain, in terms of like being in a bad relationship. What I really loved about like It Ends With Us, which also is one that was hard for me to read, but is it shed so much light on the different side of being in an abusive relationship, because when you see it from the outside, you're so gung-ho about like, why don't you just get out of it? Like, why don't you just break up with them? What is wrong with you? Why are you staying in this? Why are you so weak? And it really shed so much light on the headspace that you're in when you're in that relationship, and the danger of trying to get out of it, and how very real that is for the person in the relationship. And like, while I had thought a lot about like abusive relationships, there were so many things she just brought to light that I was like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that aspect of it. And I hadn't like put myself in this exact shoes. And it was just really enlightening in that way. And I love like the theme of it at the end, like how, because It Ends With Us is like, this abusive cycle is going to end with us. Because so often people who are abusive to their partners learn that from their parents being abusive. And it's about stopping the cycle and becoming aware of it. And that's so important. Like, that's something that so it's not talked about in books. That's the only place I've ever seen it talked about.
Yeah, it's like the very new term in like the last 10 years, like the generational trauma that we all come with here and there. It's like, you know, moms fat shaming their daughters, and we're like, no, that ends here. Like, I'm not doing that to my daughter. And then and it ends with us like really opened my eyes to it, because I think Too Late
is you're seeing like the really dark sides of it, but
Really
not
dark.
the coming. Not because that guy is so messed up that she's dating. He never comes to a place where he understands that what he's doing is wrong and that he's mentally disturbed.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think it ends with us is we're seeing characters in very privileged spots as well. And even with all of the fineries in life and all their privilege, it's the same issue, but trying to get out of it while also surviving it. So yeah, even though they're like afforded all these privileges, like she's still stuck.
Yeah, I mean, because that really has nothing to do with why she's in that relationship. Like
No,
like,
it doesn't. But I mean is like there's still issues. It's sometimes you can relate more to people who maybe have like a comfortable home instead of like Too Late, where it's like you're really seeing people at their deepest, darkest
bottom.
And it ends with us. You
she's
can
in a
relate
frat
to it more.
house.
Yeah.
In Too Late, she's living in the frat house with him because she doesn't have any money. But yeah, it ends with us. He's like a surgeon and she has her own shop. And yeah, Shaw says the author's note and of it ends with us killed me. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, same.
My number 4 favorite Colleen Hoover book is All Your Perfects. And this is one of those where when I was reading it, like I did not think it was going to be one of my favorite Colleen Hoover's books. This one is really hard. It's really like you really go to some sad places, and it's about a relationship where we're flipping back and forth between timelines where like the relationship starts and where they are now, and they haven't been able to get pregnant, and they really want a baby. And I had never read from someone's perspective that had so much trouble getting pregnant before. As you know, when this came out, I think it was like 2017, and it just wasn't on my radar, like thinking about children, and I had never seen from this perspective and known that pain, and it really opened my eyes so much to so many struggles with fertility and how that affects a marriage or how that affects a relationship and how that affects your mindset, and just how the world treats you when you're trying to get pregnant, and how hard it could be over and over again to hear people casually talking about like you having kids when you've gone through so much and tried so hard. And it just like really opened my eyes to like how you shouldn't be like, so when are you planning to have kids ever to anybody? Like
I could not remember this book last night, but now that like you're explaining it to me this way, it's like I have so many friends going through this right now.
Yeah.
As like we're in our early 30s, and I feel like I need to reread it so that I can kind of be in their mindset, because to me, I'm like I still like kids are not priority at all. Like I don't have a partner or anything, but I feel like now that I have people in my life going through this, I think I need to reread it.
Yeah, I think it would be actually like a really good read to like really you really get put in there, and it made me so much more empathetic, and I feel like I learned a lot reading that book. And I thought about it for so long after, because I knew many people who had gone through it but didn't know. Like I didn't know how it was. I didn't know the feelings. I didn't know the thoughts. And I didn't realize it really just opened my eyes to so many different things, and it's really well done. So, and it does end on an uptick. Like it doesn't end down in the dumps. So, and the whole time I was like, how is this going to end happy? How? I know Colleen will end it on a happy note, but how?
Katie said, my friend gave me a list of books to read with your partner before considering marriage, and All Your Perfects was on that list, and that's how I got into Coho. That's amazing.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right. What's next for you?
Number 3, I have It Ends With Us. We kind of already talked about it, but it was the first time I think I read something where I truly understood a victim in that situation. And I was just blown away because she crafts that story in a way where you fucking fall in love with her husband. And then that first blow, you're like, what? And it's like, it was a riveting experience, but also a tragic one too, because it was like, I really was put in that first person perspective, and I had never experienced anything like that before. And that is insane to me that like her writing does that, and like she's crafted a story in that sense.
Yeah. And it really like, it was for me, it was like the first time that I'd seen these things like in a fiction that I'd seen in real life. And I was like, whoa, is that like, that's like a thing that people look out for? Like these little flags before he hit her. And it really validated a lot of that and put words and like made things into like flags for me, because I didn't realize that they were flags. Like, you know, because when you see stuff growing up, you don't realize, like you think maybe like it's normal, or like you think that it's like just you in that situation. I
as like someone who like also kind of experienced that, but not at like a intense degree at all, or just seeing kind of like an unhealthy relationship, it was easier for me to read it instead. You know, I'm sure anyone who's ever experienced that firsthand, it's very triggering. But like what you said, like it gave words, like it gave you validation. It represented a feeling and an experience that you felt very alone in. And I feel like that's very important. And like, I just thank her for that story.
Yeah. And I think so many of her stories do that. And that's what makes them hit so hard. Of course, in different ways. And that one caught fire because it is a very relatable, horrible situation that we don't talk about in mainstream stories. Like we were just talking about with All Your Perfects, and like what we will talk about with Ugly Love. Like that's all happening too. Like, and she gives words and validation to those situations and makes those people in those situations feel like they're valid and their pain is valid and their problems are not just their problems. Other people have been through them and gotten through them as well. So my number 3 is Ugly Love. Shot says she did such a good job of helping people empathize with people in those situations. Like it's easy to say dump him from the outside, but when you're in a situation, it's obviously more complex. Yeah, it's so much more complex. Anyway, okay, so Ugly Love is my number 3. This one definitely has some toxic aspects to its relationship. I don't remember the details of this as much. I just remember like it was really a fun, addictive read, and I wanted them to work it out so much, but like they had, I feel like, hate sex a lot in this book. Do you remember the details?
I remember some of the details. They each were dealing with something in their past that like prevented them from being together. So like they really both needed to go to therapy and fucking figure out their issues. And they were just kind of horrible to each other. Oh, he was more horrible to her. But there was like all this sense of like attraction and like heat between them. Like they obviously had chemistry, and he knew he couldn't get with her because he knew he had stuff to work on, and then it ultimately just ended with them like coming together at very like heated points in time, and then there is a happy ending at it. They probably both need
there's
to
a
go to
happy
therapy.
ending.
They both need to go to therapy still.
They
but
do.
like they kind of figure their shit out. I think a therapy addition to the end of the novel probably would have been best. But me, like as a 22-year-old who didn't know too much about therapy, I was like, yeah, I like this.
Well, also there wasn't much visibility as far as therapy when this came out. Like therapy has the movement to go to therapy and normalize it has really been in the past like 5 years. Mm-hmm. And this book came out in like 2015. Mm-hmm. And that was like really, I wasn't thinking about therapy. No one was talking about therapy on the podcast. BetterHelp wasn't being pushed constantly. So yeah, no, I devoured this book, and my one memory, and I was told Natasha this last night, is her like getting fucked on a table and like stuff drizzling down her leg after, and I was like, ew, gross. And I feel like I remember the opening scene, and it was like he was sitting in the hallway trying to get into her apartment or something.
Yeah, I'll wait to say everything because it is like my number one book, but I don't know. This one was just so fun for me because it truly just took on like the love to hate trope, but like in a very dark-ish dramatic way. And it was so spicy, and like it was like crack.
It was my
to me.
first spicy read. Like, and it's nowhere near as spicy as like Silver Flames in terms of like graphic descriptions, but like it was my first time reading it. Laura's like drizzling throw up. Yeah, it was my first time reading like descriptions like that after like a sex scene. But I do remember they had like a really fun sex scene in a car when it was raining too. Like there's a roller coaster of emotional moments in this book. Mm-hmm. And the guy's name is Miles.
Number 2 is Verity for both of us.
Oh my gosh. Wait, book. you just said that with such no nonchalance. Number 2 is Verity, which is amazing. Verity is fantastic.
Like I feel like everyone and their brother reads like mystery thriller novels, and that has never been my vibe. But this was like the first time I read a mystery thriller, and I was like, ooh, oh, I like this.
So I read this the second I got the ARC in the mail, and I could not fucking sleep. Like it was scaring the fuck out of me, but in the best way. I was like, it was so creepy in like the most amazing way. I loved it. And then I was like, everyone has to read this.
It was giving Jane Eyre vibes for me, and I was like, oh yeah, but like in a weirder way.
Verity is pretty fucked up. Like, and so if you don't want to read about fucked up characters, then it's not for you. But if you like creepy shit and thriller shit, you're gonna love Verity. Mm-hmm. I think Verity was her first book to really take off, and then Its Ends With Us started to like find a new wave after that. But Verity started to hit the mainstream. People were talking about it, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, I read that last year.
Yeah, Chot says I feel like it would make a good movie. No, it would make a great movie.
It would make a great movie.
That's when it ends.
See it like. Sorry.
Well, like when. Oh fuck. Okay, I'll just say my piece. When It Ends With Us was bought and adapted, I was like, wait, why It Ends With Us? Like, why isn't Verity being made? That was my first question.
Yeah, well, Verity, like I could just see because so we have our lead point of view and she's also reading a manuscript written by this. So, okay, let me just tell you like the basic premise here. So there's this really famous thriller writer and she is signed on for a certain amount of books and then she dies or she can't complete them anymore. Like she's gotten in an accident and she can't complete the series. So she, needs a ghostwriter to come in and finish the last 3 books for the publisher. And so our lead is an author and she takes this job and she has to go to her estate to like read through her manuscripts to kind of get the information that she was planning on writing for the next couple books in the series. And so we're reading this one manuscript alongside of the plot going on. It's so messy. And I can just see like we would see that storyline play out. You know, we would be watching that. It would be like what is that movie with fucking oh my god, I can't remember anyone's name. Fuck me. Jake Gyllenhaal. What's that girl's name who's in the Shopaholics?
Isla Fisher.
Okay, Nocturnal Animals.
Oh,
which that movie is so good and so fucking creepy. Like it would be like that, and I would love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it gave me vibes of like Jane Eyre, like The Woman in the Window, something like that. Like it was just so good. But
yeah,
there's still a romance in this. Like,
oh yeah, of course,
and it's kind of sexy still. Yeah,
it is sexy.
And I'm like, ooh, great. Oh, I like this. It's
dark and creepy and scandalous and sexy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So highly recommend Verity. What is your number 1, Natasha?
My number 1's Ugly Love. We kind of just already talked about it. This was my first Colleen Hoover book that I read because it was the first one that really interests me. It's funny because like Christine, you were like, this is like my first like sexy romance novel. Mm-hmm. I've been reading all this stuff since I was like 16 years old, again, in like fan fiction, and like seeing characters outside of Bella and Edward and Draco and Hermione doing like toxic shit to themselves with each other. This was a very fun read for me because I love that feeling when like a hate to love romance hits and like the love interest does something to the main character that just makes you so angry. Like you could just feel like your blood boiling and you're like, oh, I want to get him back.
Want to get him back.
On a kiss card. So that is one of those very similar, like it happened very often in Ugly Love. And then when he has to like grovel, oh, that's like my favorite thing in like a toxic hate to love type of situation. I'm like, you fucking idiot. And then he's like, yeah, I'm a fucking idiot. I'm sorry. And then do they learn? Kind of at the end. Yeah, but it's also just spicy and it's fun.
My number 1 is November 9th. I fucking love November 9th. And it was the first Colleen Hoover book that I read like in the ARC form because when I started Coho, she had like Hopeless, Slammed, Point of Retreat, and then the one like Losing Hope and the one from the guy's point of view from Point of Retreat. So I got November 9th in the mail and devoured it. This is one of those books where I love this trope where like They meet up once a year on November 9th.
This is your favorite trope.
It's amazing. I fucking love this book so much.
Yeah.
And I love their relationship, and I love like the unpredictability of where the plot goes. Like, I remember reading this being like, where are we going with this? And then she like flip turns everything, and I'm like, wow. Like, it's so fun. I have to reread it. It's been a really long time, and there was like a lot of controversy about one line in this book for a while, and I was just like afraid to even talk about it for a while because people were up in arms. But Colleen went in and changed the line, and she didn't, want it to be like the way that people were interpreting it. She did, and she changed it because
I remember her explanation. She said that she had wanted it to be changed in the very beginning, and that she didn't know that it was published that way, and that she apologized, and she's like, we're changing it from here on out.
Yeah. And I feel like that really like shows what kind of person she is. Like, she's open and willing to listen and learn and everything. And I love that about her. But yeah, November 9th is fantastic. I remember I told my cousin to read it, and she devoured it and then proceeded to read all of Colleen's books as well.
Yes.
So yeah, I was telling everyone who doesn't read to read Colleen Hoover books because they're so easy to fall into and get addicted to, and like that's it's a way into reading, and that's also, I think, part of the reason why she blew up so quickly during the pandemic, because once you find a Colleen Hoover book, you can realize that you like to read, which I love. Yes,
She's like a Stephanie Meyer for all of us,
for romance,
down to earth, like not down to earth, but like rooted in our own world type of fiction romance.
Yeah, people who don't want to read fantasy.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. And it's like, Christine wrote a question here. It's like, what Coho book would you recommend reading first to those? And you said November 9. And I put down Ugly Love, but actually I don't recommend that one. Like, I remember getting my hair done by Kayla, and like all of her hairstylists around me, we were talking, they wanted to talk to me about books because Kayla had told them like I'm a big reader, and they're like, oh, have you like read like what book would you recommend reading? And I'm like, oh, like you should try Verity by Colleen Hoover, because that's the one I always recommend to people who are those types of people who like, they like the thriller aspect of things. And I am always like, so I read so many rom-coms and so many fantasies, but I feel like Verity is like a good book that kind of walks the line of people who want something maybe more enticing than like a rom-com. Edgier. Yeah. And so I am always recommending Verity. And I think, Kayla, my best friend hairstylist, read, that was the only book she read last year, and she loved it. And I'm like, okay, nice. Are you going to read It Ends With Us now?
It Ends With Us, though, is a completely different vibe. Like, if you start with Verity, it's kind of like you only have Layla in that vein.
Yeah.
So while Verity is so good, if you're trying to get someone into reading, you're going to be like, oh, well, these are different, but they're still good.
Like, start with this one and like, oh, I'm sorry, there's only Layla left, and you have to read all the others.
Shot says, I recommended Verity to my friend's boyfriend when he asked for a thriller recommendation, and he said it was too sexy for him.
Oh my gosh, that just jogged my memory. I have a friend, and she's like big into reading right now. Her name's Courtney. It's Color Me Courtney, whatever. Courtney does not like sex, and she has, every time she gets recommended a book, she's like, can I read this? And I'm like, okay, there's like
give her one of mine.
I know.
Fade to Black.
Oh my God, wait. No, I should. Yeah. So Courtney does not like to read sex, and like she read Iron Flame, and she's like, there's too much sex in this. I'm like, there's 3 scenes. Don't read Silver Flames. She like the other day, she like on her Instagram story, she's like, I think I'm gonna read Crescent City. I'm like, do not start with Crescent City. I mean, yes, there's there's no sex in it, but you need to start with like Throne of Glass or Court of Thorns and Roses. Like with the way you're reading and how many books and how quickly you're reading,
there are
start
sexy
there.
scenes in Crescent City. What are you talking about?
There's no penetration.
It doesn't matter.
To me, it does.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, give her again, but better. Or better together.
I think she keeps saying she wants to read your books. I just need to like remind her. Last night we were talking.
Yeah.
We were talking about Iron Flame and I was talking about Vampire Academy. She's like, oh, maybe I should read Vampire Academy. And I was like, yeah. No, I need to remind her about you. Okay. Thank you.
All right. So, okay. So we got to our number ones there. So like the Coho book you'd recommend reading first. I used to recommend Slammed reading first, but like that's more of like if you're recommending it to a younger person, I think Slammed is a good place to start. You have to read your audience, like, because Coho's got a lot of different tones now because she has so many books, and kind of gauge what they would like because you want to get them in. And once they're in, they'll read all of them. But it's like, what shoe fits the best to get them hooked? Okay, let's talk about, so what two would you say are your least favorite that you would never recommend starting with first?
Confess.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so interesting about Confess here. So I loved Confess up until the very end, and then it did not have a good ending. Yeah. And I talked to Colleen about this, and she told me, this was so enlightening for me, because she was like, yeah, when I got to the end, I actually like had lost passion for the project.
Wow.
And you can tell because it just doesn't have that same like Colleen Hoover ending that leaves you feeling like great about the book. Like, I love the concept with Confess. So it's this painter, and people drop confessions into his box, and he'll paint a painting based off of the confession, and then like post the confession in front of like the painting, so like you can read it and then look at the painting. It's such a cool concept, and it just like the end just doesn't stick the landing very hard, and so you're left with like not having the same impact, even though I fucking loved that book up until that point. Yeah, so is that why it's not one of your favorites?
Yeah, I think like the whole process of, I think I read it when the TV show came out.
Oh, so you were associating it with that like web series.
And it kind of tainted it for me.
Yeah.
But
yeah, don't watch the web series.
No, don't watch it. I remember liking the most of the book and then being like, meh, at the end. Like it just didn't have a good finish. Yeah. And my least, again, I like, yes, I just said like I did enjoy Slammed, but I think I'm like, I can't even remember all the things that happened in it. So,
yeah, complete opposite. I love Slammed. Okay. For me, my least favorites are Hopeless and Losing Hope. This book is so hopeless. It put me like in a depressive episode. Like I was already like in my 2014 section of angst in my life, but I was reading Hopeless, and it was so there's some, I'm just going to trigger warning you right now. Like she's getting molested in this book, and it's horrible to read. And there's so much trauma that's going on with this poor girl. And like there is a romance happening, but she's also dealing with this horrible trauma that's so hard to read. And then it ends with something so hard to fucking go through too. It's really, I couldn't read Losing Hope. I can't remember if that's from the boy's point of view. I don't like these books that are from the boy's point of view. Like, yeah, it's like watching the movie. I mean, it's like reading the book after you've watched the movie. Like you've already seen the plot happen. So it's hard to watch it again. But yeah, Hopeless was so hard to get through, and I just remember feeling so sad throughout the whole thing. It got me so down. I wouldn't recommend even reading it if you don't want to go through that. I know, like that's how it's like I think that's what people wanted me to read first. And I read Slammed first because that was like chronologically, I think, her first release.
Yeah, I remember hearing about Hopeless and like that was one of the other like last books I read. And I couldn't remember everything that happened because I think I blocked it out. I was like, Christine, I'm like, oh, I think I liked Hopeless. And you're like, really? I'm like, oh. Oh,
like,
you're right.
Did you? I remember the male like love interest giving me like Edward vibes in that book, or like Patch vibes.
Yeah, because he was like coming into her window at night, right? Because it was like her next door neighbor or something.
Oh, maybe. I can't remember. I remember so much of the trauma more than I remember their relationship.
Yeah, or like he was like walking. He was like kind of a bad boy, and he was like walking her home from school or something like that.
Yeah, he was a little bit of a bad boy. All right. So what is the Koho book that you feel like has made you feel like the most understood or seen or deeply connected to the characters?
So I wrote down Heartbones, and I'm trying to remember why. Oh,
Is it because of the relationship with her
parents?
parents? Yeah.
I think so. Like her mom does her mom die?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like her mom dies and she goes to live with like her dad like for 2 months until she's able to like turn 18. And it just felt like very similar. And there's similar senses in that where like she's trying to make a life out of her, of her own, but she's held back because she is not an adult yet, and there's just so much out of her control.
She had to care so much for her mother.
Yeah, she had to care so
up.
much for her mom. And like she's finally almost free, but then she has to go live the summer with her dad down by like a summer house, and it kind of like reminded me of like the beach house times I had with my family. But she meets a guy, of course.
Yeah, I really liked Heartbones. That one came out during the pandemic, and that was one of her ones that she self-published.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like it ends with us. I felt a lot of like mirroring with things that I've seen, and I have down nothing for this. I didn't put anything down. It's like I feel like a lot of her books have made me feel seen in different ways, and it's hard to like pinpoint one, but I always feel like I always feel seen in one way or another, and then I always feel like I'm learning, like seeing from a new perspective, and I love that. Like the next question I had is like a Koho book that taught you something you didn't know, and like of course all your perfects is the one I have down on there, but also reminders of him I feel like really opened up my eyes to a lot of new ideas and stuff. Just I think our lead character just got out of prison, and she's a mother, and she hasn't been able to be with her child through her like the child's first 3 years of life. And it just like opens you up to a lot of different perspectives that you might not be thinking about when you think about like prison and like people in prison and motherhood and different situations that are so nuanced that we love to paint as black and white.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I put down It Ends With Us because I learned so much from that book, and so much about a victim's perspective and how it's just not easy just to leave.
And then the last thing I have here to wrap this up was like the ones that made us feel like the most activated. And I feel like I've already talked about mine, but do you want to talk about which ones?
Yeah, Regretting You. That was the first one that I read, because you're going through a traumatic period of grief because of a familial death. And that was way, way too close to home for me. I like some of the things that the character was saying and feeling. I was like, whoa! Like, like some of my friends are going through like really hard times with their parents too, and I totally understand them going to me because I've been through like both my parents passing away. But some of the things that they say to me, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't be that person for you, because it truly, like, I'll just get transported like to those moments. It is absolutely insane. And I just don't like to open that door when I'm not ready for it. And so that's what Regretting You did. And I had to take a big break. Like, I think I had to skip through some portions, and Christine like had to tell me like what was going on. And then I started it up again once I kind of had like a hold and I knew what I was going into, because I didn't know that like Regretting You had like familial death. And I have to be pretty careful around that stuff too. Like, there was another book by like Abby Jimenez that we were reading, and it had like a person who had a stroke, and that's what my mom had, and I'm like, I can't do it. So that one was triggering.
Yeah, that was, I remember you like telling me about Regretting You, and I was like, yeah, that one's like very much too close to home right now, probably for you. Oh, I was going to say, okay, have you read all of Colleen's books? This is what I wanted to say. Okay. Have you finished all of them at this point?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't read Reminders of Him or It Starts With Us, because I was like not ready to go back into that mind frame.
Yeah, the only one I haven't read is It Starts With Us, and I feel so guilty about it because I want to read it. But I was getting like heart palpitations reading it. I started it and I was like, I can't do this. It like, this one is almost more triggering than the first one, because I already know like the situation, and the first one you're kind of like, what am I walking into? Like, so you're like braced, and the first couple scenes, it's like she wants to get the locks changed because he'll just like appear in her apartment. That made me so stressed out.
Yeah.
And I want to like, I know this is going to be like her happy ending probably with Atlas, and I want to read that. So like someday I hope I can like push through the beginning there and get to that. But I hate the custody stuff with Ryle. Like I don't want to be in that headspace.
Actually, I don't know if I've read like Maybe Not, and then there's Maybe Now. Are those connected?
I don't count those.
What are they?
They're novellas.
They are?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I haven't read Never Never.
I haven't read that one either, but that's a co-authored one.
So are those like the novellas from Maybe Someday?
Yes.
Oh,
yes, they're from
okay.
Maybe Someday. Yeah. Maybe Someday is like the lightest Colleen Hoover book. In my opinion, I think. It's like the fluffiest one. If you want the fluffiest Colleen Hoover book, it's Maybe Someday.
Oh yeah. She has all of these like different points of view books that I'm like, meh. I don't want to read, or like different like novellas that I haven't read. But yeah, I think that the last two I have not read.
Yeah. I want to read a new Coho book. I miss them. But like, since she like exploded on the scene here, all that pressure really gets to you. Like, she wrote It Starts With Us, but that was a sequel. And it's hard to write when you feel like everyone's eyes are on you, wanting to tear you down, because once you go so high, there's nothing left to do except for people to like tear you down for their own enjoyment.
Yep.
And we've seen a lot of that. Like, everyone was loving Colleen for a while, and then the videos started to come where people were like tearing her down. And I just hate that cycle. I hate watching it happen. Yeah, John Green did talk a lot about this after The Fault in Our Stars exploded. The pressure that starts to mount on your next work is immense and makes it very hard to get into the writing headspace. All right. Well, that's our Colleen Hoover discussion.
Very high
I
pitched.
miss having 2 coho books a year so much. Like we would get 2 coho books a year, you guys, before this. It was amazing.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move into Mary Kiss Cliff. All right, I did this one today. Mary Kiss Cliff, squirrel, sloth, duck.
I don't. Why? This is kind of gross.
Well, you don't have to actually like marry them. You just have to like live with them. And then Kiss is like spend the day with them.
Oh my lord.
And Cliff is murder them.
Jeez. All these triggering words today. Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I definitely gonna marry a sloth because
Ew.
what
Sloths
do you mean,
smell.
ew? They're so cute and they'll just like hang out like on a branch in your home all day. Like they won't do anything. Like that just sounds so easy.
Shots saying not me, expecting the choices would be people from Coho books.
I know everyone's like the duck has got to go. Listen, I have a thing with squirrels, all right? Squirrels?
Yeah, excuse me. I'm marrying the duck. The duck will live and be my pet.
Yeah.
I love ducks.
Squirrels, Alex and I have had interesting interactions with squirrels. They like to steal our bird seed and they make a big fucking mess. I don't like squirrels. Nope. Squirrels are not my
Squirrels
thing.
Are gross and they carry rabies. Even though all
Yes.
these animals, I'm sure, carry shit.
And I
The duck
don't.
will be kept in a house in the backyard, a little duck house.
I like little duckies. So I'll spend the day with the duck.
I will spend the day with the sloth. As a kid, like I was obsessed with ducks, and like this Will Herondale and Jace not trusting ducks thing always like makes me upset. Like, guys, ducks are so fun. They're so silly.
I did have some scary instances with ducks when I was feeding them. They like came after me when I was young.
Well, was it a swan? Because they're evil.
Oh, it might have been. But no, I
Yeah,
think
the
it was a
swans.
duck.
Swans are fucking aggressive as shit. I don't know if you've heard my mom. Anytime swans come up, she's like, I hate this. And it's because swans will attack you. So this has happened to us multiple times, like because we had the house down the shore and we would go out on jet skis. And if you get too close to a swan by accident, they will nosedive you and follow you around trying to get you. It's so scary because they're fucking huge. And they have nosedived my mom and we've had chased us around, prevented us from getting back to land because they'll block it off. Like, it's horrifying.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, like they are very protective of their babies, but like you won't even see their babies and they'll just be like, attack.
Katie is just like, she's team all animals. She's like, squirrels have to eat too. What is this hate? I can actually, Katie, I can read it in your voice too. Listen, we have a bird feeder because we like little birdies outside doing the little tweets. And when the big butt squirrel comes in, he scares all the birdies away. And then it makes Nico all go crazy and he has to go outside to like deal with the squirrel.
Laura says a swan attacked her in the Netherlands and she was walking through the park minding her own business and a wall of feathers tried to eat her.
Oh no.
Those bitches are aggressive.
Swans are the worst.
Yeah, people who have never had an encounter with swans always want to like get close to them because they're so pretty.
No, I remember there's
Don't.
They have, oh my gosh! Well, Disneyland has they have swans sometimes, but they mostly have little duckies during the spring, and then the mama duck is like sheltering along the little baby ducks, and like everyone makes way for them at Disneyland, and it's so freaking cute. I love the little duckies there. The Swan Princess gave me unrealistic expectations.
Exactly. It really did. But she wasn't a swan, technically. She was a person that was forced to turn into a swan. So didn't have the same instincts.
Oh,
man.
wow, Bellamy is... You are the guys are the same color. He's like camouflaged by your sweatshirt.
I'm wearing the green sweatshirt, so not exactly. But that is going to be our episode today. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this coho discussion. We put out episodes every Friday, and we are going to go record our Fangirl Tea Time. Today we're going to be talking about the viral video about Gen Z talking about how they're aging rapidly and that whole phenomenon, which will be interesting. So if you want to join us, that will be available at the $5 level on the Patreon. Team Jacob, which, like I said, has a free trial. There's also an option to do an annual subscription, which saves you like 16%, which is almost 2 months of Patreon. So that's awesome. And yeah, that's all in the show notes if you want to check that out. It's patreon.com/those4kingfangirls. But our podcast is edited by Alex Polis and Jake Needham, with music by Cole Jenkins and vocals by Heather Troska. Our socials are run by Chloe Leverson, who does a kick-ass job. So make sure you're following us on Instagram more, Instagram or TikTok, or YouTube, of course. Those links are in the show notes as well. And I'm Christine.
I'm Natasha.
And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.